Hey everyone, welcome back to Firsthand Globetrotting. Today, I'm going to tell you about 5 foods that you need to try if you visit the Riviera Maya in Mexico. These tips apply whether you're staying in a beachfront resort along the Mayan Riviera or in a city like Playa del Carmen or Tulum or even Cancun. Really, you should be able to find these foods anywhere on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Actually, you'll have a much easier time finding them as you go further away from the big resorts and the tourist zones. One thing you need to know about the Riviera Maya is that it's a pretty new location. It was built to handle all of the tourists who wanted to come to visit the amazing white sand beaches that they have here, so it's very young by Mexican standards. Cancun is the biggest city in the state of Quintana Roo, but it was a planned city that only started being built in the 1970s. And Playa del Carmen started as a small fishing village, getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year as tourists flocked to visit the area. These cities have people living there from all over Mexico and all over the world, so you're going to have a huge selection of Mexican and international foods to choose from in the tourist zones. But don't worry, there are some more traditional foods from the Yucatan Peninsula hidden away there too. You just need to know what foods to look for. Like with all of my food videos, I'm going to focus more on the dishes themselves and not as much on the specific restaurants to find them. I find that in city centers and tourist zones, the restaurants open and close so fast, and their quality and menus can change drastically in a year, so it's much easier to just know the foods you want and ask around for up-to-date recommendations on where to try them. If you're in Playa del Carmen or Cancun, your best bet is to leave the main tourist areas and find spots nearby that are more popular with locals. That's where the more traditional Yucatan dishes usually are. But guess what? The foods I'm going to show you today are so popular that you may even be able to find them on the menus at your all-inclusive resort. I was actually able to get my first tastes of all of these things right at my resort, so no searching necessary. But enough talking about the Riviera Maya, let's get on to all of the amazing Yucatan Peninsula foods. I'm going to start with what is probably the most popular and easiest to find of all these foods. Cochinita pibil. It's pork marinated in a mix of sour orange juice, achiote, and other spices that give it a really nice flavor and color. You can think of it as a slow roasted Yucatan barbecue. Traditionally, it's wrapped in banana leaves and left to cook for hours so that the meat falls apart. The distinctive red-orange coloring and the pickled red onions make it something that really jumps out at you. Next up is one of the most common starter dishes that you're going to find around here, sopa de lima. The best way that I can describe it is a chicken soup, but then made even better with ingredients and flavors from the region. The most important ingredient and the one that really sets it apart is the lima. It's a citrus fruit that isn't quite a lemon and isn't quite a lime. It's less tart and acidic than them and adds a really distinctive flavor to the soup. And it's always topped off with strips of fried tortilla to add some crunch. The third food I'm going to recommend is another pork dish, chuc. The meat is marinated in a blend of spices, and just like with the cochinita, juice from sour oranges is used to add a nice citrusy flavor to the meat. But instead of slow roasting it, the chuc is grilled over a flame. I found this to be one of the signature main dishes from the area, and a great chance to get to enjoy some of the sour orange infused flavor. The next dish that I think you should try is a tamal brazo de reina. At first glance, you may think it's just a regular corn tamal like you can find all over Mexico. But what makes this dish unique is that it's filled with hard-boiled egg and then topped with a very flavorful pumpkin and tomato sauce. It also has chaya in it, a leafy green superfood that's really common around this area. The slices of tamal really soak up all of the rich flavors of the sauce, making for a really delicious meal. The last recommendation I have for today is for a local liqueur, xtabentún. It's made with regional honey that the bees produce from the nectar of the xtabentún plant. There's also anise used to make it, which gives it a sweet black licorice taste. The most popular way I saw it being drunk was just alone with ice, since it had enough flavor on its own. So that's it, the 5 local foods that I recommend you try if you're visiting the Riviera Maya or one of the big tourist cities like Playa del Carmen or Cancun. I'll list the foods I showed you down in the video description, since my pronunciations were probably way off. As I said at the start, the tourist areas are going to be full of more generic Mexican and international restaurants, so you may need to walk a few blocks away to find places with these dishes. But a lot of these are so popular that you may even be able to find them at your all-inclusive beach resort. These definitely aren't the only local foods that you can find in this region of Mexico. There are plenty of delicious and unique things to eat here. The ones I showed you are relatively easy to find at restaurants. In part 2 of the video, I'll show you some of the great fast food and street food options that you can find. I'll put a link to part 2 down in the video description, make sure to check it out. Thanks for watching this video, and hopefully it showed you some things that you want to try when you visit the Riviera Maya, Mexico. If you have any questions about the foods I've shown you, ask me in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. On Instagram, I'm Firsthand Globetrotting. On Twitter, I'm Firsthand Globe. Follow me on there. And don't forget, it's an incredible world out there, so pick up your passport and do some firsthand globetrotting of your own.